Hey guys, would it be possible if we did a colorless goblin noise?
Shut up, Jerry.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. If you're looking to bling out your cards, using Alter Sleeves is a great way to do so, and you can click the affiliate link in my About section to help out the channel as you make an order. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game was filmed with the Gamebreaker crew, and it's got a bit of an interesting twist. First up, new to the channel is Simon, playing his green Omnath deck. He keeps Genesis Wave, 3 Forests, Dryad Arbor, Myriad Landscape, and Finale of Devastation. Nick is playing his Urza's Armor tribal deck, with Oros as a helm. He keeps an Ankh of Mishra, a Genesis Chamber, a Personal Sanctuary, Read the Bones, Scab Clan Berserker, Reflecting Pool, and Temple of Triumph. Here's where things get a bit crazy, since Connor is playing Anafenza, and he keeps a Swamp, a Forest, a Plains, a Winding Constrictor, a Dune Blast, and a Selesnya Signet. We also have another Connor playing an Abzan deck with Daghatar, and I'll refer to him as Connor 2. He has 2 Plains, a Swamp, Fertilid, Juniper Order Ranger, Mirari's Wake, and Blossoming Sands. Of course, in the turn order, Connor 2 goes after Connor 1, so that's just really confusing, but here we go. Connor wins the die roll and starts us off. Connor draws and plays a Swamp. Connor 2 plays a tap Blossoming Sands, gaining 1 life as it comes in. Simon plays a tap Myriad Landscape. Nick plays his Temple of Triumph, scrying 1. Connor plays a Forest and casts a Winding Constrictor. Connor 2 just plays a Swamp. Simon plays a Forest and passes. Nick plays a Reflecting Pool and pays 2 mana for the Ankh of Mishra. Connor plays a Plains and takes 2 from the Ankh. He casts Cultivate, taking another 2 as the basic he finds from the field comes into play. The Constrictor then shares some of the pain with Nick as he swings him at him, and Connor passes to Connor 2. Connor 2 plays a Plains and also takes 2, and then pays 3 mana for a Fertilid. Simon plays a Forest and takes 2 as well, and then brings out Omnath. Nick plays a tap Blood Crypt, which does 2 as he comes in either way because of the Ankh, and casts Genesis Chamber. Connor draws and plays a Plains, taking 2. He pays 3 mana for Anafenza, and then casts a Selesnya Signet while Nick is finding a token to give him from the Genesis Chamber trigger. He then hits Nick again with the Constrictor, passing. Connor 2 plays a Plains and also takes 2. He plays out Retribution of the Ancients, and then taps 2 mana for Fertilid's ability, going into his library to find another land, and takes 2 as it comes in, after removing a +1/+1 counter. Simon plays a Forest, taking 2, and casts Soul Ring. He floats 3 green mana, which doesn't dissipate, and actually pumps Omnath, and he goes at Nick with his commander. In his second main phase, he uses that green mana and his Soul Ring for a Gauntlet of Power, naming green as it enters. The Connors are pretty okay with this, but Nick feels a bit left out. Nick plays a Personal Sanctuary, and then plays a Temple of Malice. The Sanctuary prevents him from taking damage from the Ankh, and he gets to scry 1, and then pass his turn. Connor drops a Scoot Mob in his main phase, and he gets another Mirror token. He then plays out a Diabolic Tutor to go and find a card to put to hand. He swings everything he can at Nick, putting the counter, which becomes 2 counters, onto a creature thanks to Anafenza. They're also pumped as Simon points out by the Gauntlet for being green, and Nick drops to 19. Connor then passes while searching for a card. Connor 2 plays a Mirari's Wake in his main phase, doubling his mana that isn't already doubled, and I guess tripling his basic forests? They actually realize he has more mana than they thought, and he's able to tap the Blossoming Sands for 2 to use Fertilid's ability again. He removes another +1/+1 counter and goes to find a basic, and surprisingly the Fertilid gets to stick around because the Wake pumps it by +1/+1. Simon untaps and draws. He plays a Forest, losing 2, and then pays 3 for a Sword of Feast and Famine. He gears up Omnath with it, and goes at Connor 2. Connor can't block, and before damage is dealt, Simon taps 3 forests to float 6 green, which sticks around because of Omnath, and pumps his commander. This has Connor 2 taking 9 commander damage, and he has to discard a card while Simon untaps. Simon then taps out in his second main phase, using all of his mana for a Genesis Wave, where X is 12. He hits some serious goodies with Kozilek, Oblivion Stone, Survival of the Fittest, Temur Sabertooth, Sensei's Divining Top, Surak, and 5 lands, but does take 10 as they enter from the Ankh trigger. Simon then taps a Forest for 2 and uses Survival to discard Dryad Arbor to go and find a creature card to put to hand. He reveals Terastodon, which he then casts. It comes in, blowing up the Ankh and Sanctuary on Nick's side, and the Retribution on Connor 2's side. They get some tokens, and he then passes turn. Nick's turn has him playing an Evolving Wilds and casts Read the Bones. He scries 2, bottoms both, loses 2 life, and then draws 2 cards. Once he's done, he cracks the Wilds to go and find a basic, and passes. Connor's Scoot Mob gains 5 counters on his upkeep, and he plays a tap Jungle Hollows, gaining 1 life. He then taps out for a Dune Blast, and everyone at the table but Simon is all too happy to see it. The creatures are exiled because Anafenza sees them dying, and the Scoot Mob is left once the dust clears. Connor then swings it at Simon, passing turn. Connor 2 untaps and draws. He plays a Hardened Scales, and then taps enough to cast Daghatar, who comes in not only with an extra counter, but also a Mere Buddy token from the Genesis Chamber, and he passes to Simon. Simon casts Tempt with Discovery, which no one takes him up on, and he goes into his library to put to field Gaia's Cradle. He can't tap it for anything right now, but Simon goes to remedy this with a large Finale of Devastation. He puts out Avenger of Zendikar, which gets the pump and the haste, and then puts out 11 plant tokens, which sadly don't get the bonus. He then hits Connor for 15 in retaliation, and passes to his post-combat main phase, remembering to get a Mirror token from the Avenger coming in thanks to the Genesis Chamber. Nick plays a Sulphurous Springs, and then taps out to put to stack a Deadly Tempest. Simon responds, floating 13 green with the Cradle, and uses 1 to activate his top. He then activates the top to put it on top and draw a card, and then rather than take all that damage from the Tempest, uses his Oblivion Stone to wipe the board before the board wipe. With nothing else, Nick then passes to Connor. Connor draws for turn, and plays a Radiant Fountain, gaining some life as it comes in. He then plays out Guardian the Gateless, passing to Connor 2. Connor 2 plays a land, and then plays out a Juniper Order Ranger. He passes, and at the end of turn, Simon cracks his Myriad Landscape to go and find 2 basic forests. Simon also realizes at this point that he just shuffled away Sensei's Divining Top, and he's a bit sad. Simon's main phase has him casting an Animist's Awakening, and he dumps all but his Cradle into it. He hits 5 lands, one of which is an Ancient Tomb. He then taps more mana, taking 2 from the tomb, as he casts into Karametra's Arcolite, and then drops a Witness, returning to hand Genesis Wave, and passing to Nick. Nick draws and plays a Buried Ruin. He then casts his own Soul Ring, and brings out Oros before passing turn. Connor plays a Forest, and then taps 8 mana, casting a Corpse-Jacked Menace, and then a copy of Nylea. Connor 2 plays out an Abzan Falconer, which comes in with a +1/+1 counter from the Juniper Ranger. He then enchants the Ranger with Journey to Eternity, and swings it at Simon. Simon takes the hit, and Connor 2 then passes. Simon draws, and plays a Forest. He taps the Acolyte for mana, and then taps out again for a massive Genesis Wave, where X is 17. He hits 2 Planeswalkers, with Garruk Wildspeaker and Freyalise coming in, not to mention getting to go find a land from the Nissa creature hitting the field. He then resolves a Growing Rights trigger, and keeps Craterhoof Behemoth from the top 4. Once all that's done, he upticks Garuk, untapping 2 lands, one of which is of course the Cradle. He then recasts Omnath, and gets to put the Lightning Greaves onto Kamal. He passes to Nick, and at the end of turn, transforms the Growing Rites into Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun. Nick untaps and swings Oros at Simon. Simon responds, activating Tornado, which is one of the cards he hit from the wave, to destroy Nick's commander and put a velocity counter onto the enchantment, which seems like a pretty insane kind of card in green. Nick then taps enough for Oros again, and pays 2 for a Pyrostatic Pillar, passing to Connor. Connor draws, hoping for another board wipe, but is saddened by his card, and unfortunately just plays out his commander again, passing to Connor 2. Connor 2 draws, and plays Reliquary Tower, and then casts Regna's Sanction. He picks himself as a friend, Simon as a foe, and Nick and Connor as friends as well. This has his friends putting a +1/+1 counter onto each creature they control, while Simon is forced to tap down all but one of his creatures. He keeps Omnath untapped, and Connor 2 then goes to combat. He swings both of his creatures who have flying at Simon, and before moving to blocks, Simon taps Itlimoc for 5 green, and then another 5 from the Cradle. 2 of that floating mana goes into Nykthos, and he gains 14 more. He uses some of that green to activate the Tornado, and targets the Falconer, taking 3. Responding to this, Connor 2 casts Inspiring Call. This lets him draw 2, and more importantly, make his stuff indestructible, but he does take 2 from Nick's Pyrostatic Pillar. With this plan of saving himself foiled, Simon then sacrifices the massive Omnath to greater good, drawing 23 and then discarding 3 cards. He doesn't find an answer, and he sacrifices Nissa to draw 2 and discard 3, followed by the Witness doing the same. He's clearly digging for something, and he then uses Kamal and animates 2 forests, and activates Overrun once to pump everything by +3/+3. He then sacrifices one of the forests, drawing a few cards, and discarding 3. Simon then says sacrifice another forest to draw some more cards and discard some to try and find that answer. He still can't deal with the flyers unfortunately, and has to sacrifice Karametra's Octolite to draw more and discard more. At this point he corrects his issue of exiling the creatures, as he's found what he's looking for, and he casts Constant Mist. He sacrifices a land to the buyback cost, and takes 2 to the pillar, but combat is at least fogged. With nothing else, Connor 2 passes. Simon lets Tornado hit the bin, and draws his last card in his library, and outlines numerous ways he has in hand to take out the table, the most common being animating lands with Kamal, and then overrunning them, or using Craterhoof. The table agrees he's got it in the bag, and scoop it up to Simon. Game review time. So I thought we had a pretty good showing from Omnath, some okay showings from Daghatar and Anafenza, and Nick's Oros deck doing what it does, which is causing pain to everyone and making everyone hate him. Considering his opener, I did not expect Simon to do as well as he did, but I guess when you're playing mono green and heavily focused on generating tons of mana, having 2 X spells in your openers that get permanents to the field are where you want to be. This is one of Nick's earlier iterations of his Urza's Armor based deck, which is typically in the Mardu colors. I think it's a great idea. He runs a lot of punishing effects that don't otherwise see play, and some funny cards like Urza's Armor, Personal Sanctuary, and other things that would just seem normally not that great by reducing damage by 1, but when you stack it up by 6 or 7 times, really adds up. And unfortunately for the Connors, we didn't really get to see too much of what their decks did, although it did seem to be involving +1/+1 counters and creatures, but beyond that I'm not really too sure what to say. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.